Hello, this is Jessica Pettitt, and who do I have the pleasure of interviewing today?
Well, good afternoon, Jessica. This is Mr. Gary Richardson from Our Diversity Works. I'm the president and CEO of that company, which is a full-fledged diversity training consulting firm. And I've been in the consulting business since 1999. I've done a myriad of different sort of tasks and projects that I work on. I was a program manager for what we call senior leader training at the Defense Equal Opportunity Management Institute in Patrick Air Force Base. I've also been an EEO compliance officer for the New York State Police, in which I was a New York State trooper for 20 years and retired in 2013. So I am welcomed and happy and honored and everything to be here this morning for this interview. So I look forward to the questions.
Absolutely. And full disclosure, I have mostly been interviewing people I knew or maybe one Kevin Bacon step removed. And I'm excited to get to know you because I get your email in and I was like, what? Does that say Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award issued by
Yes.
President Barack Obama 2016? Is that what that said?
Absolutely. It sure did.
Yes. None of the other ones say that, just so you know.
Well, I'm proud. It was a great honor. It was actually issued to me at the Defense Opportunity Management Institute at Patrick, where I work, by my mentors, who actually brought that down to me. So it was a great honor. It was a surprise, and I have it up on my wall at my office. So my mother's very proud of me right now.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, before we'll end, we'll get a little clip of you with it. We'll snoof it.
All right.
Interview. That's great. Okay. So how this starts, Fancy Pants, is I'm going to ask two open-ended questions. There's no wrong answer. You can say anything you want to, but there's two concepts that are battling around in my head.
All right.
The first one is about the concept of diversity dividend.
Okay.
So this often comes up when I'm talking to people about the bottom line or something like that. But tell me what it means to you thinking about investment, action, and return.
That's a fabulous question. I'm so glad that you asked me, because oftentimes what is missed in diversity training and also in diversity consulting is there's no connection between a diverse group of employees and performance. So that's what I attempt to do anytime that I go out and train, anytime that I go out and speak. I try to show people what that connection is. So from my standpoint, diversity, the bottom line is, how can I leverage those unique talents and abilities that Jessica may have when she's working for me in my organization? It's about taking that experience that you may have as a unique individual and bringing that into my company and my organization, and then leveraging that talent to make our organization the best that it can possibly be. You can only do that by getting to know the whole person, not just my skin color, not just my gender, but what do I bring to the table that you can leverage that will make Jessica's company the best that it can possibly be. That's where diversity has to go in the 21st century. And that's what I am out here trying to push and trying to write about to give people that bottom line. So it's all about performance. At the end of the day, the return on investment for an employer or organization is my performance. I can't give you a car, I can't give you money, but I can give you optimal performance. How do you get that? You have to know me as an individual. Once you get to know me as an individual, you know my strengths, you know my weaknesses. Now you know how to pair me up with team members so that my strengths will be an advantage to any mission, any type of task that we're set out to do. So that's the bottom line for me. Get me the individuals that can get optimal performance out of their employees. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, that's awesome. But the other concept that's been rattling around is asterisk other duties assigned.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes these are like unrecognized labor that you are been assigned in your job description or at leeway from a supervisor. And sometimes there are things about your own identities and what you're kind of doing or fulfilling unofficially at work. What does that mean to you? Asterisk other duties assigned.
So for me, as being also, I'm a retired military officer. So I was in charge of personnel and members in actual resources that we call human resources. So when I hear the term of, additional tasks or things of that nature, what that says to me from a military standpoint is we all come in as military members with a core identifier, like a core, what they call MOS, your military job assignment, okay? So when you come in the military though, even though you may come in as a welder, as a computer programmer, you are still a soldier, sailor, airman first, meaning that you have to protect our national security. You do that by fighting, all right? So the additional duties are where I believe organizations kind of miss the boat, so to speak, because that's your opportunity to find out what additional skill sets a Jessica or a Gary might have that can be used to make the organization better. So oftentimes what happens, what I've seen is we assign tasks by what our stereotypical views say to us about that individual. So it used to be back in the day, okay, the women plan all of the parties, all of the holiday stuff that's going on, and the guys just kind of sit back, and if there's some heavy stuff to bring in, it's the barbaric sort of thinking. Heavy stuff to bring in, the guys do that. Well, wait a minute. There may be women who are certainly skilled enough to take charge of putting together a mission. They have to do it every day. They've been in the same military around the same people as the males have. So when I take that experience into an organization, I will tell a leader or a manager, when you give additional tasks, okay, assign them by the person's strengths, not by their demographics, because my skin color will never perform a task ever. I wish it could, because I might let my blackness do the interview with you and take the other 84% of me and go hang out in Vegas somewhere, right? But it doesn't work that way. So I have to identify what your strengths are and then start assigning you those additional things according to those strengths. Now it tells me a little bit more about you as an employer, but guess what it does for you as an employee? It says, Gary trusts me now. He's giving me ownership. He's putting me in charge. He's putting me in the lead. That builds confidence. And that's extremely important with people from first generation. What I mean by that is I was a first generation cop. I didn't have any family members that were cops before me. So there was no blueprint for me. Mm-hmm. So I was left to the mercy of my supervisors or the people above me. So when you give me an assignment and put me in the lead, then that gives me the confidence that, yeah, you trust me. Okay, if I fail, how do you react when I fail? All of those things are important as we move through the organization to make it the best. So I know I kind of gave you a whole lot, but that's just the experience coming out of me, that I've been in so many situations where I see how we can leverage talents and how we can lose talents at the same time.
I appreciate it. I think it also goes the other way around, and that I've been the person at work who somebody, David has a birthday party, and so people are just like, Jessica, make cookies. And I don't know how to bake, at all. Yes. So then I feel a lot of pressure to somehow meet this. And even if the task is being given to me, not because I'm a woman, but because I'm going to build social capital or something like that, even if it's being positioned in a way, the stress of my performance of baking was really hard, really frustrating. So it goes both ways.
Absolutely. Yes.
Cool. So one of the other things that we talked about that I thought was really fascinating, because I've never even heard of it. Talk to me about what a court-ordered mandate in the context of diversity training, equity, and inclusion work is. How is this court-ordered mandated, and what do you do with that? Okay,
so what happens often is an organization, it may be an institution somewhere, who has maybe violated an EEO, equal employment opportunity regulation or guideline. They may have violated that somehow. And then they get sued, unfortunately. So once that party is sued and they lose that suit, that case within federal court, what will happen is a federal judge will put out a mandate on that organization saying, hey, you have to do this whole list of items, okay, to the full satisfaction now of the court in order for you to satisfy this dissent decree, basically the lawsuit. Money is often attached in there because you know that's the hardest or easiest way to hit people is with money. But with addition to the money that's lost, the judge will say, okay, you have to build an EEO office, okay? Because maybe that organization doesn't have one. So now they got to go out and hire EEO investigators. They got to hire an EEO director. And all of these things have to be in place in order for the judge to say, okay, you have satisfied this consent decree, this mandate. Now we can move on without having what they call a monitor. A monitor is a law firm that's in charge of your mandates, making sure that you do all of these things. So where I come into play is because of my background, because I've done so much as an EEO director, both as a civilian and on the military side, and I've been doing diversity since 1999. Law firms have sought me out to come in as their subject matter expert to help their client or the organization that's being monitored walk through their mandates. So whatever that federal judge, it could be 100, it could be 50. I'm there specifically to help that organization make sure they correct or fulfill all of those mandates put on them by the federal court. So that's where my experience comes in, is on the civilian side and the military side, because I know what the EEOC says about, you know, sexual harassment and violations of those types of things in the workplace. So I'm there as their expert to help that organization right their wrongs, so to speak. And it's pretty unique because oftentimes as a consultant, those are things that you don't often get a chance to do, but I've actually, you know, been with just one client for going on 4 years now on one case alone. So it's really interesting.
It was a really incredible thing to even contemplate. And it makes me think about the voting regulations and voting restrictions, and how they have a monitor, and then the piece that just got repealed by the Supreme Court is that we don't need a monitor anymore. We think you can handle this.
Absolutely. Along the same lines.
Fun facts, it appears as though you cannot handle this. Okay, good.
Yes.
Another thing that I wanted to talk to you about, because I think you have a really incredible combination of experiences. So in my own work, I have a lot of conversations in reference to people who are supportive of Black Lives Matter movement.
Right.
I also have conversations with people about All Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, and why these things are important, and why at this moment, yes, all of those are true, and we're paying attention to this particular population. I would go even one step further. Last week, I did a whole program specifically about the increased rates of trans women of color who are being killed or murdered. So what's fascinating to me is that across the board, across all four of those kind of themes that come up in my own work, there is often an unconscious assumption that law enforcement are only white men. And that the victims, whether intentional or accidental, that's yet to be decided, are all men and women of color. And so then I always just say, like, hold on. What about officers of color? Where do you think they fit into this conversation? And it's silence making. One, how do you individually, as a human being navigating the world, deal with that? And then how does that come up in your conversations? Because you don't identify as a white woman. Not this morning, I didn't anyway. So. Good to know. Excuse me. By not identifying as a white woman, I'm curious how these conversations show up with you, with your experience and your identities.
Wow, that's a super question. And I can tell you, I'm often asked that. I'm often asked my opinion for both sides.
Not original.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and the luxury of being who I am, and I mean that from an experience standpoint, is that because I'm an African American male who is seen color-wise as being Black in America, I have that experience. But then because I've been a law enforcement officer, retired now, lieutenant, I've gone from walking the streets and driving the vehicles and making the arrests to then supervising and running programs. So my sight picture has broadened a lot. It gives me a dual perception or dual experience when it comes to situations like this. I was once asked, how did I feel? It was after I think the police officers in Texas were assassinated. I think there was 5 of them. And some of my colleagues would come to me and ask me, well, how do I feel about police officers being shot? And it was interesting to see their reaction by my answer. So I would say to them that as a police officer, trust me, I understand the fear that officers have going out, and you don't know if you're coming back home at the end of the day. And then to have somebody out there hunting you because of the institution that you belong to, and they're not looking for a white cop, they're not looking for a Hispanic cop, they're not looking for an Asian, they're looking for a cop, anybody that's in that uniform. That could be me, or could have been. So I understand that side of it, and I understand that fear, and it's absolutely wrong. However, here would be the caveat to that answer. As a African-American male in America, I know how I am perceived in this country. I don't make any bones about it. I know that there's stereotypes about me and people who look like me. My father is an African-American, Black, dark-skinned man. My brothers are dark-skinned males. My sons are dark-skinned males. I don't think I would feel any better if today I received a phone call saying that one of them was shot while they were unarmed in a traffic stop because I was a cop. That's not going to make me feel any better about that situation, but I have the experiences of both. So I'm able to talk from, I would say, an educated standpoint from both of those pieces. But I also bring that into diversity as well, because that, when you talk about diversity of thought, that is absolutely diversity of thought. So I can sit down with one group and explain to them, hey, this is what cops go through. I've done it when I've gone out to do lectures. I've given them scenarios, and I've asked the audience, what would you do in this situation? Blank stares. And then I say, this is what cops go through every single day. On the flip side, I can ask law enforcement officers, how would you feel that every day that you woke up and you have a son or you have a daughter that has skin like mine, that I'm always on edge until I go to sleep, hoping that I never get that phone call that my son was stopped and arrested and killed. You know, so those perspectives I bring into the business that I do, into consulting, because you can't teach that in college. You either have to experience it or you don't experience it. So having those dual perspectives, I don't think I have to be pro one or the other. I don't have to be pro cop. I don't have to be pro Black. I can be right in the middle, okay, and give you my opinion from experience, and you can take it or leave it. So that's when I teach diversity, I teach it from that standpoint. I don't need Jessica to experience the Black experience for you to appreciate my skill sets. You're not going to be able to do that. I'm not going to be able to do that with you either, right? But what I can know is that the more I get to know Jessica, the more I get to experience Jessica from Jessica's standpoint, the things that Jessica has told me. Now I can better work with you. I can develop that trust because I know where you came from. And at the end of the day, hey, let's make some decisions based off of who we are. Today, you know I'm feeling some kind of way because the way I'm looking, because you know me. I recognize that in you. So we kind of play off of each other's strengths. So those dual experiences, if you actually can manage them correctly, it will benefit an organization forever.
I love the language of using the dual experience there. I know that in the conversations that I have is if even with your experience doing diversity trainings, having the background that you do, having the medal we can't wait to see, the truth is that if we both got pulled over, we would have very different experiences.
Right. Absolutely.
We both walk into a bank, we're going to have very different experiences.
Absolutely.
And, I often say that it doesn't have to be a problem for you,
right,
for it to be a problem for someone else.
Yes.
And I recently got in a conversation. We both fly a lot for our jobs.
Right.
And I used flying as the example, in that very few people take a plane to work. Let's see how you like this. Because if you don't like it, maybe I won't use it anymore. Very few people take a plane to work.
Right.
So most people take their own car. Maybe like a bus could be parallel to the planes, in that to get to work, I am dependent on a system that I'm completely out of control of.
Right.
So I am not entitled to that flight actually getting there on time, leading up to the next thing. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to result in a plane crash, but like also a possibility, right?
Right.
I don't think about those things when I'm in a car. I'm independent. I go whenever I want to. I change my mind. I run another errand in the middle of an errand, whatever.
Right.
So I've used it as an example, in that when thinking about law enforcement, I've never been in law enforcement. I have very few interactions, actually, with law enforcement, other than as the consultant or the speaker.
Right.
But I feel that if you sign up for a job that it has something that is out of your control, or a risk factor that's not typical to some other jobs, that's real.
Yes.
And I think that nobody deserves to die. Everybody deserves to be able to go home at night.
Right.
And your employment history has been much riskier than mine. Although I did wait tables and bartend in some places that were a little questionable.
That could be very risky. Yes.
It's slightly different than the risk that you're taking, right? But at the base of it, I don't believe anybody has the expectation that they are not coming home tonight.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's the humanity piece, right? And the dual perspective of what that means, I just think is really powerful. So thank you for that. That's great.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the possibly from your experience, but also just you as a human, the next part is my two favorite questions.
Okay.
Number one is, what have you changed your mind about lately?
Wow. Well, I can say I just had a birthday a couple weeks ago. I just turned 52, so I got
Happy
52
birthday.
markers on this earth. Thank you. I appreciate it. I can say that what I've changed my mind about probably more recently than any other is the idea of race being important. And I often talk about this in my lectures, but the older I get, the more and more I see that it's a little ridiculous, for lack of a better term. So when I look at race and how we, as humans, view race, I often ask myself, well, what's the purpose? Number one, what's the purpose of race? And what's the importance of it? And I often ask doctors this, what's the importance of it? And nobody's been able to give me an answer yet. Now, I will tell you this, it has become important because we have created a system that puts importance on those things. But when you really, drill down to it, what does my race do? How does my race perform? I can't tell you that every, African American or every Black person I see, especially if it's a guy, he can go out and play basketball and, he's into entertainment and all of that kind of stuff, because that would be the silliest stereotype ever. When I've seen different. I mean, my sister's an attorney, so my feeling that, I have pride in who I am physically, and I can identify myself as being this color. But when I look at the importance of my race, it's important for this reason, and this is how it ties into diversity. Because of the way I am seen in this country, by the color of my skin, also by my gender, it gives me an experience, as we said earlier, that's different than yours. So I know that when I go into a store, okay, I may have more money than everybody in the store. Nobody knows that because of the perception. In my career path may not be linear, because I may have roadblocks in front of me simply because of my color. So I had to navigate around those roadblocks to get to where I wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
The importance of that is for an organization or a leader to say, well, wait a minute, I'm not immune, or I'm not closed off in some cave where I don't know that this group of people are looked at a certain way. Women are looked at a certain way in this country. LGBT community is looked at a certain way. Mm-hmm. But if we're in the room together, my question is, hey, Jess, hey, Gary, what did you do to navigate your way to this point right now? Mm-hmm. Give me the blueprint to that, because I want to find some more yous, some more Jessicas, some more Garys, okay? That's to me, is the only importance when it comes to race, is to kind of look at it from, okay, an experience standpoint. What did this person have to go through in their life to get to where they are today? Mm-hmm. And from an organizational standpoint, how can I tap into that experience that they had to connect with another untapped resource somewhere, another audience somewhere? That's the only importance of it. Other than that, it's a celebration of cultures, just things that we do, mm-hmm. things that we have pride of in our families. And, you know, those can change every day if you want to. I can start a trend right now that's in my family that will stay there for 100 years. So
that's a very good segue to the second favorite question, which is, what do you absolutely know?
Okay, I absolutely know diversity. Mm-hmm. I really, I know diversity because I've lived diversity. I lived diversity from a different perspective. So if you invested money today, and I'll just give you a quick example. If you were an investor and I said to you, Jessica, you need to diversify your portfolio, what would you take that to mean? Well, hey, I need to get stocks, I need to get some bonds, I need to get real estate. You need to get different, unique resources, or lines of finance coming into your portfolio. Now, just because you picked them, that doesn't make it diversity. What makes it diversity is when you apply the resources to them. You may have to sell some off because it's the wrong time to hold that stock. You may have to put a little bit more research into this stock because it's brand new to your portfolio. You've never heard of it before. And at the end, how are those stocks and those bonds and that real estate performing for you? That's diversity.
Well, and that goes back to the story that we talked about earlier that I really liked. And that is, you mentioned the movie, some people know the book, Hidden Figures.
Yes,
and
yes.
What I liked about how you said it, and then we'll go to the quickie icebreaker question.
Gotcha.
But what I liked about what you said about the women in Hidden Figures is NASA didn't benefit from their diversity by bringing the women in. Yeah, right. Sure, diversity, checkbox, great.
Right, exactly.
But how they were included, these women at NASA, how they were included and the work that they did and how they performed helped NASA, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
I think that was a really, really beautiful way of kind of naming when we say like diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? That, so difference was there, but they weren't ignored. They were valued eventually, right?
Right.
And allowed to really shine and be included as team members. That's great. That's wonderful. Yay.
There you go. And that's how you get diversity, right?
Let's do more of that. Okay, so then thank you so much. The next piece is super quick, super fast. They're totally personal.
Gotcha.
But I asked you to give me 3 random numbers, and so I have a product called the Icebreaker Cards.
Okay.
And there's 50 some odd questions. They're easy, intermediate, or advanced. I'm just going to randomly ask you the numbers you gave me, and you super quick answer. So first is number 5.
All right.
Is a key question. If you had to choose a celebrity to play you in a movie of your life, who would it be?
Oh my goodness. Probably there. I can't remember the actor's name, but everybody tells me I look like him. He played in Save the Last Dance for me. I don't know the actor's name, but if you see him everywhere I go, people say I resemble this guy, so it would be him, whatever his name is.
All right, we'll Google him in just a second. Okay, great. Okay, number 32.
All right.
Prepare yourself. It's a deep question.
All right, here we go.
If someone asked you how you have made a difference in the world, what would you say?
Through explaining diversity and how to get the best out of individuals. I think that's what I've given to the world.
Excellent. That's a great answer. Number 15, easy. What is your go-to comfort food when you're feeling celebratory?
Oh, if you give me peach cobbler, okay, with just a little bit of peaches, but a lot of crust,
Same.
I am done. Okay. I am good for the rest of the month. That's my comfort food.
Completely agree. I do not like baked fruit, but I like what
There
baked fruit does
That's right.
to crust.
There you go. Exactly.
Peach cobbler minus
Yes.
the peaches, but a corner piece.
Yes, there you go. With a little bit of charred crust on the end. Just, hey, I'm good to go.
That sounds great. Okay.
Yes.
For the people who are paying attention, I Googled Save the Last Dance for me,
Yes.
and I'm getting mostly Asian actors.
No, it should be, there's a black male, African-American male that was the co-star in that movie.
Yeah, so just so we don't think I'm crazy,
Oh my goodness.
I'm assuming there's more than one movie. But I'd like to give a shout out to that one. Save the Last Dance is what it's called.
Right, yes. I believe that's what it is. Save the Last Dance. Yes. And it should be an African American and a white female co-star for that movie. The one I'm talking about. That may be the
That was so funny when I Googled it. I was like, hey, look who I found.
And you tell me, everywhere I go, people, especially when I didn't have my beard.
Look at this.
Ah, there you go. Exactly. That's who
John
people.
Patrick Thomas.
Yes.
If you smile.
Yeah.
And he's got a good photographer. Just
there
saying.
you go.
All right. You are magical. I really appreciate this. Before I let you go, I know the exterminator's there. Will you run and go show us your fancy metal thing?
Okay, actually, I have two of them.
Whoa.
Can you see all of this?
Oh my gosh. I thought it was like a medal.
I probably have to move back.
You do. Perfect. Look at that. Can you poke your head around the side by your hands and like smile?
Let's see. Oh, I can't do it.
You have to do a side. Yeah, there you go. Woo! Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
That's the main one. The other one just has President Barack Obama in the letter that he wrote. But this would actually
have his face.
Yes.
Oh, people gonna want to see his face.
Okay.
We're still upset. What are you talking about?
All right. There you go.
There you go. Oh yeah.
Just...
Perfect. Congratulations. Yay.